Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone, and we are kicking things off with football. World champions Argentina have booked their ticket to the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup, which of course will be played in Canada, the USA and Mexico. That following their round 14 result in the South American qualifiers on Tuesday night. Argentina's participation in the 2026 World Cup confirmed before their round 14 encounter as Bolivia and Uruguay played to a 0-0 draw in an earlier kickoff. The Albiceleste proceeded to celebrate their World Cup qualification in style as they emphatically beat Brazil 4-1 in front of jubilant supporters at the Monumental Stadium in Buenos Aires. That's the Estadio Monumental. Julian Alvarez, with a finish all strikers love, opened the scoring for Argentina after only 4 minutes. And 8 minutes later, it was 2-0 as Enzo Fernandez popped up in the box unmarked. Mateus Cunha looked to have given Brazil a lifeline when an unforced error from Argentina's defense gifted him a goal in the 26th minute. But it made little difference as Alexis McAllister made it 3-1 just 11 minutes later, finding himself under no pressure in the box. And Giovanni Simeone completed the thrashing as they made it 4-1, 19 minutes from full time. And to put the cherry atop the icing for Argentina, the 4-1 defeat for Brazil is their heaviest loss, Brazil, ever in World Cup qualifying history. Speaking after the match, Brazil's captain Marquinhos apologized to the teams about the team's performance. He said, "What we did here today can't happen again. It's hard to talk about it in the heat of the moment. It's embarrassing. I'm sorry for our fans. It's not just the coach's fault, it's the players' fault too. There's no secret formula in football where you make a choice and it works out. We can all do better. We have to share the blame. It's about understanding the moment and being humble." Our football analyst, Leger Williams, followed the match, and he joins us now. Lige, before we talk about how impressive Argentina were, are Brazil in a crisis?
Yeah, and they have been in a crisis for quite some time. And this is something that we've spoken about before on the SportsMax Zone when it comes on to Brazil and not only their state of field on the play, their state of play on the field, I should say, but also their culture going forward, everything going on around their coaching situation. They've changed around 3 coaches in quite the recent past, and it hasn't been very positive for them. They've been struggling on and off the pitch. And I think this result against Argentina, who have been getting everything right lately, really sums up what you would say everything that's been going wrong with Brazilian football over the last few years.
Yeah, Marquinhos post-match, Lige, I know that English being his second language, some of the comments may come across maybe differently from how he meant it. But I'm keen to hear your opinion when he said it's not just the coach's fault. And he said the players have to take responsibility as well. I'm not sure how to take that. Is there an issue with the coach's strategy? And was he genuinely suggesting that the coach didn't get things right as well?
And you know, Sir Lance, this might be a very long-winded answer because I've noticed a few things, as I said, wrong culturally with Brazilian football. So I understand what he means when he says that it's not only the coach's fault, it's the players as well. Because I think that's just a typical thing to say when players aren't getting it right. You would see teams putting in the worst of performances, being terribly coached, and players in their minds, they just think that they need to work a bit harder on the field. But I do feel a bit bad for Dorival, just as how I felt a bit bad for Fernando Diniz when he was the head coach of Brazil, because these are coaches who were brought up in a Brazilian way, under a Brazilian philosophy, and the players nowadays, this is why I said it would be long-winded, the players nowadays aren't brought up in that same Brazilian philosophy. Now, if you were to look back at the very successful Brazilian teams of yesteryear, they were built on the backbone of players who grew up in Brazil, got their fundamentals of football on the island of South America. That's not the case anymore. If you were to look at players throughout this squad, even at Marquinhos, their captain, most of them got their fundamentals on the continent of Europe. And that's created what I would like to say is a culture clash between what Brazil want and what their fans want and what the players can do. So I'm not saying that the players are of any lesser quality than what was in the past. I'm saying that culturally and how they play, there's a big gap between that, and that is causing what I would say the poor results on the field, what we eventually see come out. So Brazil, as we all know, are used to playing football a specific way. When you think about Brazilian football, you think about the Samba, you think about the Ronaldinhos of the world, the Zicos, the Peles. They're always very expressive, creative players. And when those players get thrust into a European type of limelight from an early age, I think a lot of that freedom and expression is taken away from them, and that's in terms of the attacking players, but also the steal is taken away from a lot of the defensive players as well. We don't see the same type of the Brazilian defenders like we used to back in the day. We aren't seeing the ones of the world. We aren't seeing the Lucios of the world. We aren't seeing the Gilberto Silvas in defensive midfield anymore. That's replaced by, I would say, pretty monotonous workhorse type of players who don't have that same sort of creative expression or steal in comparison to their other South American counterparts. So there's a huge cultural issue going on when it comes on to Brazilian football. I understand what Marquinhos is saying in terms of the players need to do a bit better. But the coaching-wise, I have to say I feel a little bit sorry for the coaches they've appointed lately.
Yeah, something that, Brazilian fans will feel very, very disappointed about. I read an article today, BBC headline about Brazil being embarrassing, and, it's not something that is very, very common. Liz, they're fourth on the standings on 21 points. Do you expect Brazil to qualify for the World Cup? Just a quick a comment on that before we talk about the team that has qualified.
Yeah, I think they'll qualify, not on the basis of them being anything special. I just think that they're better than the teams below them.
Yeah. So Argentina now qualifying in fine style. I have to say, really impressive. And I say that on the heels of the fact that they were without Lionel Messi for quite some time. And we know about Argentinian football for quite some time. Every time you spoke about an Argentina team, the name Lionel Messi enters the discussion. We're still doing it nevertheless. We're saying he's not a part of the team, but the team went on and they looked like a complete unit. Your initial thoughts when you saw the performance of the players and, of course, that result?
Yeah, I would say, obviously, you have to call the great one's name. You have to call Messi's name when you're speaking about Argentina, but you don't win 2 Copa Americas and a World Cup on the spin without having superior ability on the pitch. And that bleeds out in the complete opposite, the complete contrast to what we see from Brazil. Argentina know what they are culturally, and they know how to develop those talents culturally as well. So Scaloni has developed a system which is very, I would say, it fits in perfectly with what Argentina currently have at their disposal. And it's a contrast to what we see from Brazil, because when you have players like Alexis McAllister, Enzo Fernandez in the middle of the park, Rodrigo De Paul, Paredes, these are players that, yes, did get a lot of their methodologies from Europe, but they've never lost that Argentinian way of playing. And that Argentinian way of playing is, I think, is exemplified by the second goal that they would have scored last night. 35 pass sequence over a minute and a half of keeping the ball from Brazil. It was an extremely arrogant way of playing. It was brilliant, and I think that's probably the best Scaloni goal we've seen while he's been the coach of Argentina. This Argentina team is quite simply fantastic, and I think they're the closest thing we have in international football to seeing how well ideas can be transposed, like how we see them in club football. Mm-hmm. Usually, you hear that coaches don't have enough time in international football. well, I think Scaloni and Argentina put that debate to rest.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think it's great that we're talking about that on the heels of the comment that you made about Brazil and their coaching staff and, the points, Liz, about, things not going right in the Brazil coaching setup, as opposed to now we put that alongside Lionel Scaloni and how he has been able to get the youngsters. And I want to move to one particular youngster, Thiago Almada. He scored against Uruguay. He's young, he's upcoming, he's vibrant, he's quick. And to me now, I'm starting to think, well, just from a glimpse of what we've seen from him, the future of Argentina and their football seems to be in good hands. And I say that because, this always happens in sport. When the greats and those that have contributed to the game is on their way out, fans always worry about what's going to happen next, who is going to step up and fill those shoes. But then I see these youngsters, Leger, and I feel really good about it. I feel very positive about it.
Yeah, Almada is one of those players, I guess you could say, got that unfortunate tag of being dubbed one of the next Messis. I wouldn't say he's going to go that far, but he's an extremely talented player, and he's just a long line in the lineage of Argentinian players who are being brought up to play a specific way. Their young talent at the moment, I would say, is right up there in terms of what we're seeing in world football. Typically speaking, this Argentinian bunch, the talent, and the reason being why they can be successful even without Messi is because they, as I said, they have a special way of playing. It's not only give the ball to Messi and hope that he does something special. When you see these goals, they're all created in a very similar way. They're all starting from the back, passing from the back, baiting the press, then allowing Brazil to be drawn out, then creating space for your teammates. And it all comes back to simple coaching fundamentals when it comes down to what their players do. So it's because they're coached so well, so these young players can come into the system and look so spectacular. Because when you think about something that even Pep Guardiola said, about what makes teams good. And this is always something to look out for anyone watching at home, anyone trying to analyze football. If you're seeing a team be compact centrally and at the same time having all the width in the world, that's how a telltale sign that a team is well coached in possession. When you watch Argentina play, if you were to watch back that second goal, it seems as if at first that their entire team is condensed in a central space. All of their midfielders, fullbacks inverting. Look at the numbers that they have centrally. They have 3 to 4 players in a central zone when attacking, but at the same time, they're still seamlessly occupying the wide areas with their fullbacks. Brazil did not have a clue how to defend this type of football, and I think it's a telltale sign, as I said, that Argentina will be perfectly fine going forward because of the talent that they have coming through. And it's quite scary as well, the type of talent that they have coming through in Argentina, the ones that have made moves already. Even someone like Echeverry, who is owned by Manchester City, a young Argentinian player. They have bucket loads of talent coming up.
Yeah, so you said some really, made some really, really strong points just now. You spoke about, that goal-scoring form that they have, nothing to worry about, and you said they'd be fine moving forward. And I want to draw on those two things. So Julian Alvarez, I feel like he's always been in our discussion now, whether we're talking about the Champions League, unfortunate about what happened to them there, as well as La Liga. He continues to score here for his country now. Really, really good stuff from him. I expect that to continue. Do you as well?
Yeah, of course, I think his form will continue. But as I always say with Argentina, although Alvarez is an extremely talented player, fantastic ball striker, which will always give you an advantage when it comes down to playing in football. Ball striking is possibly, I would say, apart from overall physicality, the most important trait you can have in football, and Alvarez has that in bucket loads. But this Argentinian team, you have someone like Lautaro Martinez, who has been one of the best players in the Serie A, for example. You have so many great attackers bursting through the seams, and so many attackers that fit their system well. So I think Alvarez will continue to shine in this Argentinian team, but I think that's because of the players that he has around him and the system he has around him to thrive. but he definitely is a fantastic player.
So Argentina to win it, right? To win it all?
You have to ask me again in a year. I can't give out the guru-ness this early. You have to ask me in a year, because if Jamaica were to get to the World Cup, I might have a different answer. Who knows?
Lance, can we just tell him goodbye now?
All right, thanks, Liz, for your comprehensive recap of Argentina, Brazil. And we look forward to the remainder of the qualifying for South America, because there are other spots that need to be filled. But we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, no problem, Sir Lance and Mariah.
Okay, take care, Liz. Well, the only other win on the night was Venezuela, a 1-0 result over Peru at home. Chile and Ecuador played to a 0-0 draw, and Colombia and Paraguay equally shared 4 goals between them. Venezuela's 1-0 victory over Peru sees them climbing into the playoff spot in 7th position. Lands Venezuela the only CONMEBOL team to have never qualified for the World Cup. Do you see them finally getting over this hurdle?
Well, we've seen some improvement from the Venezuelans in recent years, and they are just on the brink at the moment, so it's possible that they can get things done. I think there has been an elevation in the quality of their game in the past couple of years, so there is a good chance that they could squeeze in.
Do you know what's ringing in my head?
Tell me.
The song. I was singing it yesterday and it's been on my mind.
Which song?
It goes like, I'm a soca warrior. I say win or lose. I am a fighter.
Yes.
All right, well, Lance, we're going to have to wrap up this segment for today. Do you have a reggae boy song?
Yes, there are reggae boy songs.
There are many, right?
Yes, more than one, yeah.
Yeah, all right. We're wrapping up this segment, but don't you go anywhere. We have a lot more to talk on this edition of the SportsMax Zone. I'll see you soon.